the government announces Macquarie is investing £1.3 billion into new green infrastructure, including a green power farm, as a result of planning being like pushed forward by the government. And its Road Chef portfolio will be installing electric car fast charging points along its sites in the UK motor network.
It's Road Chef portfolio.
Macquarie owns all of Road Chef.
Oh man, Road Chef. That just makes me hate Macquarie even more. Who goes to a Road Chef?
Well,
what kind of sick fuck
goes to a Road Chef?
The Little Chef was one thing, but a Road Chef? I would sooner eat from a Burger King at a Moto, and I don't say that lightly.
I like the really deep well of knowledge about motorway services there, you know?
Yeah.
This is an opinion that you come by honestly.
I would sooner stop at Lee Delamere than go to a Road Chef.
We have another, right? Which is not just data center after data center after data center, or saying, hey, Macquarie, you invented the way that Thames Water is currently run and financed. You're behind, ultimately. You are the great and powerful Oz behind the curtain of why there's so much shit in the river. Why don't you do it again, but with wind farms?
Dorothy discovers that the river is full of shit and therefore imagines that she's no longer in Kansas.
Follow the bobbing brown road.
Yeah.
I think it's worth considering, though, that you're actually underestimating the government here, and there's something else. There's a different plan afoot. Because I think one way to look at it is that they're just laying out the red carpet and they want these firms to come in and just extract rents, and it's all going to be about profit for them. But when you look at the specific companies that they have chosen for these investments, if you were trying to choose companies who were more likely to face huge regulatory fines for things like filling rivers with shit, you would struggle to pick better companies than the likes of Macquarie and Iberdrola. So I actually think what they're doing here is bringing them in and letting them commit to all these projects, knowing that they're going to fuck it up so badly that they'll be fined billions and billions of pounds for breaching all these regulations. So when you think of it like that, it's kind of 4D chess, and you're missing the fourth D, as it were.
Are you saying that we're in the middle of a kind of infrastructural version of the producers?
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Great.
But it is kind of just worth highlighting that they're kind of trumpeting these investments from these companies as though they're not terrible at what they do. All of the firms that you've read out there, since about 2010. Those companies alone have paid 300 million in fines. That doesn't include DP World's fire and rehire thing, because that was actually within the rule. So they didn't get fined for that. That wasn't a technical breach by this kind of metric. So
DP World owns P&O Ferries, for people who might be wondering who that is.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I thought DP World was a very different kind of website.
So, it doesn't include that. And I think if we look at Eli Lilly, for instance, they haven't actually fallen afoul of regulators in the UK yet. But all we need to do is let them operate here for a while. And they're sure to, because they've been fined $2 billion by US regulators in the last 20 years or so. So if you think of it about investment in those terms, I actually see this paying off. I think this could be a big Starmer W incoming on this.
The country's doing a slip and fall scam.
Springtime for Hackloyd and Macquarie.
There we go. The fact that the only way to spin this properly is the country is preparing to get out a phony neck brace. Is quite we're going to a mall that we know hates bad publicity and running across a patch of black ice.
Perfect.
There are a couple more that are worth talking about as well, which is we're also announcing £500 million of investment to build homes on quote unquote brownfield to tackle the ongoing housing crisis. And 5,000 homes aren't going to be enough, but it's not nothing. But again, the homes that are being built by Schroders or Man Group or residents and stuff. And they're once again going to be these aren't socially owned houses. They're affordable houses to address social inequality, which is it's normal housing development dressed up in sort of social language.
Regular houses for dudes built by the Man Group. No chicks allowed.
They also announced at the Eli Lilly collaboration was announced at this festival, right? What Starmer has to say about this was go back to this, right? Is after all of his sort of cavorting and capering, ultimately says, and by the way, here's an example. And I feel I have a feeling, I have one of those sort of spidey senses here, that his citing of it takes 4,000 documents to build some new power station somewhere, right? Not 4,000 pages, 4,000 documents of multiple pages each. That's going to become one of those numbers that's quite sticky. And it's going to be one of those moments where when the next major preventable building safety crisis happens, the history of that crisis will point to Starmer waving that 4,000 number around, promising we're going to cut building and planning regulations so that you can all grow faster, as you alluded to earlier, Ethan, right?
Yeah, no, I think I was just going to say, I think I would put good money on that specific claim, the 4,000 pages thing. I would put good money on that coming from a briefing note sent by one of the kind of favored lobbying companies with lines to take on this. And I would imagine that it's just been kind of taken wholesale. And that's how this government does seem to operate. They don't have any sense that companies operate on the premise of trying to serve their own interests, and that those interests don't necessarily align with those of society at large. And so why would they lie? Why would they lie about the fact that there may be 4,000 documents and that being a bad thing? There's no reason for them to make that up. Or it must be true, and it must be good for everyone if we get rid of those documents.
Yeah, because the documents are stopping growth. What are the documents? The documents are things like don't have your power plant burned down. Don't have your dam burst. Hey, this building shouldn't explode.
Useful reminders.
Yeah. Essentially. And, I'm just reminded again of, David Cameron's 2-in, 1-out rule on new regulations. It's just him setting himself up to do the same thing. And then once again, the rule was, and we remember this from the Grenfell inquiry, it was, no, we only cut the bad regulation. So again, what Keir Starmer seems to be setting himself up to say is, no, we're not going to get rid of the necessary documents. We're just going to get rid of the unnecessary ones. And, I quite simply, I think it's, and we've even then, I've talked in this show before about the planning process, how it's you don't need to streamline it. You need to actually beef it up. You need to get people involved in planning. You need to actually hire people, or just trying to drive down the number of documents that businesses are supposed to produce without hiring professional planners. All you're going to do is say, hey, why don't you make more dangerous buildings? Why don't you build things that are going to pollute more? Why don't you build things that are going to fall apart? Hey, remember that RAC? That thing that, that means schools are collapsing up and down the country. Why don't we have that in more essential infrastructure because it's cheap to do, and that's what you'd rather have? We took out the document that said you can't have RAC. To me, it is just identical. The identical thinking that, quite horrifyingly is, never gone anywhere. And it's just in where it's got a little more polish and appears to be delivered almost directly by the people who seem to benefit from it.
Look, I think we can all agree that one thing Britain definitely needs is lower quality buildings. I think we all know that the buildings that are being built, they're too good, okay? They're too good. That's why no one can afford them, because they're making them too good. They need to build shittier buildings that people can afford to live in, because I presume that's what's causing the prices to be high, because the buildings are so good.
Well, anyway, growth at all costs. I cannot wait personally for my heart to be torn out and to be thrown down the temple steps as we attempt to once again ensure that the sun of the economy shines upon us.
I mean, unless the temple collapses because of...
we made the sun temple out of rack.
Pyramid.
I've bet a huge amount of the Mayan Riviera pension fund on the outcome of this particular iteration of the ball game.
No.
We're hoping for the best.
Anyway, I think that's probably all we have time for today. But number one, Ethan, I want to thank you very much for coming and talking to us again.
No, my time's covered by my handlers anyway, so it's no problem whatsoever.
Also, do you have a torso? Is a question I find myself asking many people.
If you're asking the River Thames, almost certainly.
Yeah. If you're asking adversarial reporters against the intelligence community, perhaps not. Do you have
or maybe only a torso?
Yeah. Do you have a torso, or are you a torso? Would you like your torso to be covered? We can help.
Great reviews from Jamal Khashoggi.
Yeah. Would you like help with covering your torso? We are back selling shirts. And both of these are labors of love from our very own producer, Nate Bethea. They are 2 new t-shirts that we are doing pre-orders for now. There is one that I can only describe as about the lagoon.
Yeah. If you love the lagoon, you know what if you don't know what we're talking about, you don't want the shirt. Okay. Yeah. If you know what we're talking about, then you may want the shirt.
Yeah.
I'm not going to explain it to you. Just look at it.
Yeah.
It's lagoon related.
It's a lagoon shirt. It's about the lagoon.
Yeah.
You can yourself can
if
be
you're a
banished from
Laguna,
the-
if you enjoy Lagooning.
Yeah, if you want to wear it to your lagoon cave.
Yeah, that's right. And also, we have a shirt for our new favorite non-Mesoamerican ball game sports team, the Avignon Popes. Our bootlegger finally got back to us. I really, really, really like that one. I think it's pretty funny. And if you liked anti-Pope Clement V, then you're going to be able to support him in style in our new Avignon Popes American football t-shirt. I see November's head is in her hands. Anyway, so there will be a link for those. Do check them out. And otherwise, check out Ethan's newsletter, Dark Arts, or his Vertical and Open Democracy for reporting on all of the stuff that's actually going to make the government do things in the next 4 years.